Arriving here and now, I invite you to join me in closing the eyes if it's safe and available to you. And with the eyes closed, simply arriving fully present with the breath, breathing through the whole self. Inhaling the arms up. Maybe grazing past the leaves of a plant friend next to you with your palm. And exhaling. Hands come to heart center. And at heart center, allowing awareness to float gently like a leaf floating down from a branch, returning to earth. Awareness floating like this gently falling leaf into the sanctuary space of the heart center. Checking in with the heart, maybe placing one or both hands upon the chest, feeling, sensing, seeing, or simply knowing what the heart space is like now, allowing all the senses to explore and engage with curiosity. Are there walls in your heart space right now? Are there any colors or sensations? Simply noticing what you notice. And remembering that you are that which includes what arises in your experience. You are that which includes this heart space. And you are that which includes the noticer, the witness, the observer of your heart. Feeling the beat of your heart, listening to the beat of your heart. What is your heart song singing to you in this moment? Can you listen to the rhythm of the heart, as well as the liminal pause in between each beat? Now asking the heart to, if you choose, communicate with you directly. What is my heart telling me in this moment? What is my heart gifting me? And do you choose to receive? Hop. Do you choose to receive that which your heart is offering now? And sensing now that what seems to be your heart space is also the heart space. The collective heart, the collective heartbeat of all that is. That the heart is both personal, individual, and specific to you, and it is also entirely collective and shared. Sense the connectedness of your heart with all the other individual hearts that may sometimes seem to beat separately from your own. The heartbeat of Gaia, of the Earth Star. Perhaps sensing through the root of you the heartbeat of the Earth. And connecting with the cosmos, the galactic universe we are joyfully a part of, sensing how your heart is one with the heartbeat of the stars. One with the heartbeat of your loved ones, and one with the heartbeat of those who you have yet to encounter in this lifetime. And how your heartbeat is one with all the beings who you may never cross paths with, and yet you still share this one heartbeat of existence. Together our hearts beat as one. See it, sense it, hear it, feel it, know it, and it is. And in this heart space, calling forth an intention, a prayer, a blessing, that you specifically offer forward for yourself and for the entire collective. Speaking that prayer within your heart now. And as it is expressed within the heart, it instantly actualizes multidimensionally, allowing your creative essence to gift you the experience of your prayer being true now, that your intention is already fulfilled in ways even more magical than you might have even imagined. That your blessings radiate and magnetize exactly that which is for and from you. That any future you pray for, any future you envision, is already here. And what a gift to celebrate. Are you choosing to allow yourself this gift of experiencing your heart's deepest prayers, your truest dreams, your intentions and blessings for the world? Are you choosing to allow yourself to experience all that is now? See it, sense it, hear it, feel it, know it, and it is. And sealing in this beautiful ceremony of the heart, with each breath. Feeling the radiance and love of your heart light glowing in every cell, every iota of your beingness. Nourishing, vibrating, illuminating. Now inviting the sound of the singing bowl to transition us and opening the eyes gently whenever you are complete. And welcoming ourselves, welcoming each other in this beautiful space, spiraling within, where we get to spiral within the present moment together. Yeah, we get to, you and me. And the little unicorn sitting on my laptop, I'll show you. This is my little unicorn friend. Ding! Well, this is a unicorn friend in the quote-unquote scene realms. There's many unicorn friends in other dimensions as well, joining us. Oh, there you go. Perched right there. Then we have plant friends. All the friends. Wow, that was really lovely. Thank you for contributing your presence, because really that was the energy that was flowing through. It's the alchemy of you joining this space, you showing up, you receiving, that really inspires what comes through in the present moment. And it's funny how we can go into anything with either expectations or even that word intentions too. Even, I guess, a plan or a vision. I have so many visions of the ways things might unfold. And then ultimately, it's like the moment arises, and at least in this context, like I click record, and then what flows through is simply what flows through. So for this, this morning, I was woken up, my body woke me up around 5-ish a.m. because I was experiencing some sensation, some womb space sensation. And the womb space is something that really we each, regardless of what our biology or even species is, we all have a womb space. Because the womb space really, it's the womb of creation, and we are each creator beings. And so whether or not we have what one might, but there's a butterfly. There's a butterfly flying outside. It's orange. Butterfly friends. And then there's the hummingbird. Welcoming all of those beautiful, beautiful friends. Yeah, so a womb space. We each have a womb space. And even if we may not biologically have what one may label as a womb, like a uterus, there are just infinite forms of what form a womb space might take. Like the image that keeps popping up as I'm speaking about the womb right now is a beehive. A beehive, what a womb. What a womb. Oh my gosh, womb also rhymes with room. Because that's also the other image. Like this bedroom that I'm in, this is absolutely a womb space. A cocoon, that is a womb. Really the entire earth, like the blanket of the night sky around the earth is a womb. And so oh my gosh, we were all born through wombs, at least in physical form. Like we all have a very intimate connection with womb energy. This embrace, being held, being supported, and even the heart space, in my experience of it, it is this womb. It's like the womb of the heart. Now every time I say womb, I just hear room. Like I'm going, the womb, the womb. Words are so funny. Saying words too. So the womb space, oh yes, I woke up at 5-ish a.m. with sensation in the womb. At a prior time in my journey, I would call these period cramps. And I remember, so when I first got my period, I was in 5th grade. I was, what was that? Like, I was 10, almost 10, like 9, 10, or around the 10 years old mark. And it was a deeply shameful experience. I was very much not happy about the whole situation. I was just, it felt like the worst thing possible for me. To be in elementary school where I'm pretty sure there weren't even little, those boxes in the toilet stalls. They didn't even have period product disposal boxes within the toilet stalls. So I remember I would take tissue paper and wrap up my pads and then toss them in the very large and open round garbage bins in the bathroom. But I would want to like tuck it under layers of paper towel so that it wouldn't be seen. I was literally burying the shame of my blood. Yeah. And it was so layered too, because it was all of this programming around, just the shame. The shame of bleeding, the shame of being a woman, the shame of also maturing on a timeline that seemed different than others. Like also at that time, I was 5'6" in 5th, 6th grade. That was quite tall. And I was just always taller than my peers physically. And that was just really the cherry on top of a magnificent experience of standing out when I was so entrenched in the identification of this fear of being seen subconsciously and consciously, because I very much did not want to be in any spotlight at that time, because the spotlight would mean targeting, attack, death, judgment, ridicule, all of those lovely survival consciousness, separation consciousness programmed fears. And so with the period, it was like, oh my gosh, this is just the next thing on the load of things. Because it also meant that I was getting all these pimples. Yeah. Oh, just gonna giving little Pei-Ling self a hug, because even with all of those energies neutralized, there's even recollecting times of being seemingly identified with shame, because that's all what I was consciously experiencing. Consciously, and it's interesting with the word conscious, because I would also describe that all of energy is consciousness, that those are also equivalently exchangeable terms. And there's also conscious or unconscious used in, I used this analogy the other day and I really love it. So in programming terms, if you're programming and coding computer stuff, there's like a front end and there's a back end. And so what you see, for example, on a website or a web page, that's only the front end. There's all this back end coding that's happening that is creating this experience, the thing that you encounter that seems to be on the surface. In the back end, there's all this programming. And so that which I was experiencing at the time was I was really living from my front end programming, believing that the front end was really the extent of life, but then also deeply knowing that there was more to life, but not necessarily knowing how to access the back end code. Yeah. And not even knowing if I necessarily wanted to at the time. But divine timing. And divine timing is also that point of the womb, circling it all the way back, and me waking up at 5 a.m. with womb sensations. The womb is this primordial, like the primordial soup. That's what they talk about in the origin, or at least in science textbooks when I was in science in school and stuff. I remember this term, the primordial soup. And it's from the primordial soup that the first organisms of what they call life emerged. And the womb, and being connected so intimately with just being the space of emergence of creation, like that and divine timing, they're just co-creating. It's all one. They're the rhythm that the womb flows in, the rhythm of our creation, the rhythm of our seasons and spirals. Again, whether or not the way that people study hormones reflects seasons and spirals and cycles and da-da-da-da-da, regardless of what your biology may seem to be, even if you are a ladybug. The womb space is, this can be this guiding force of the rhythms of our life, the rhythms of our experience, the rhythms of our death. And so it's interesting, just my experience of the unfolding timing of the womb space now, and then. Because when I was in school, and particularly when I first when I got my period, I was like, this is way too early. I'm not ready for this. I'm not choosing this. This is not what I want. I just wish this would be done. Even I had so much shame around the language of periods, menstruation, all of those things, especially period products. Like I had so much shame in even verbalizing to my own mom, who is a CNM, a certified nurse midwife, who does midwife stuff with pregnant women and period people, bleeding people all the time, looking at vaginas all day, left and right. And even with her, I would text her or send her a message or a little note saying, can you please get me more pads if I was running out? Those pads were probably hidden in this opaque box in the back of my closet because I didn't want anybody, even myself, seeing this occurrence, this event of my life. Like a dark secret. That's what it was like. Having my period was like a dark secret. And then, as middle school came along, so now I'm like 12, 13, 14, the shift, there was still like some level of shame, but then other girls in school were getting their periods too, so it was more in the air. At least that's how I felt. I felt like I didn't stand out as much as a sore thumb, even if nobody could look at me and be like, oh, she's got her period. It was just it was almost like a truth that I wasn't ready to accept about myself. Like I didn't want to change. And yet I so desperately wanted to change. Isn't it funny? Because oftentimes those strong feelings have an equal and opposite duality, and parts of us identify with both, and that then creates the illusion of inner conflict. And yet really we include that which observes the inner conflict as well as that which seems to be each part of the inner conflict. Yeah, so in middle school, the next evolution of my period was the sensation of it. the intense, I just had intense cramps. And I remember one day in particular, I remember lying in bed and just feeling so nauseous. There was just so much sensation, so much sensation. And I soon learned, like, the behavior or pattern that I adopted was taking ibuprofen. It was taking Advil. And I think that there was a point middle school. So I was having my period middle school through high school. And there was a point that I would take, the second that I would even feel any inkling of lower belly, womb space sensation, I would take like 3 Advil. And then every, 6 to 8 hours, I would re-up. And, maybe 2 Advil here, maybe 1 Advil. And really it was mainly for the first couple days of my period, because those were the times that they were the most intense. But it was a similar pattern to how I was choosing to experience all aspects of sensation in this human vessel, which was numbing and avoiding. Well, I suppose in numbing, you kind of have to feel something first in order to numb, but it was not even allowing myself to numb. It was an avoidance of even the thing to emerge so that there would be something to numb. Kind of like whack-a-mole. In whack-a-mole, you're like waiting for the mole to pop up so that you hit it with a hammer. This was more like, let me go underground, and just the knowing that the mole exists, let me bury the moles. Let me just cover up all the moles with dirt. Wow, that's quite an image. Let me just suffocate the whack-a-moles alive so that there's nothing to whack. That's funny. So pop an ibuprofen, avoiding the sensation. And also back to not even back, we're just, divine timing has been here the whole time. The time. There was an element of dread. I remember because at that time I was also in that period, it's funny how the words just overlap. During those school years, I was a very planned being, very calendared, which kind of, that is what student life is like, or at least when I was experiencing student life. I know there are a myriad types of schools, and there's homeschooling and many different school options, but at least, just if I'm looking at the school experience that I've witnessed and gone through and chose to experience, there's a schedule, right? You have certain classes, you have a class period, you have period 1, 2, 3, and there are certain times. And so your life is in these blocks, these little chunks. And whether those chunks are hours of the day or chunks in the form of days of the week, it's like all these chunks. It's taking this thing that seems like this vast infinite space and time, believing, one, that it's limited, believing that time is limited, and then being like, okay, with this limited time, how do I make the most of it? How do I make the most of it? How do I make sense of this ephemeral, abstract concept of time? Oh, let me just draw boxes around it. Which that absolutely has been an effective method for the effects that were desired. And in that, of drawing little boxes around time, I would look at the calendar and then I would be like, okay, when might I get my period? Is there an event happening? Oh no, there's an event happening. Dread. That was essentially it. Because, it's like looking into the future, a future potential seeing the worst case scenario potential and then dreading the worst case scenario potential. And even just that fear of getting my period, that dread of my period, and it really was a fear and dread of being confronted with sensation, with bodily sensation and bodily functions and bodily processes of all of this expelling and excretion. And it's also interesting, the avoidance of release, because that kind of is there is an energy of that within that programming of dreading the period, is this holding on. And even little 10-year-old Pei-Ling who first got her period, is this holding on to the way things were, holding on to the way things have been known versus the seemingly unpredictability, the variability of when the period might come. It's like it's on its own rhythm. Yeah. And that was also very parallel to just like my emotional avoidance, because I was living in a very thin sliver of sensation in my life. Not really. And it's funny because that thin sliver was on the, how would I call it, depressed side. I would not at the time have ever described myself as depressed, but it's all relative. Relative to, butterflies here again, relative to the energy that I now realize is my true essence. I see that how I was living was relatively depressed. And I mean depressed in the sense of, like, depression is literally a lowering. It's kind of like a dip. And so relative to the frequency that I resonate at nowadays and choose to resonate at nowadays, where I was resonating, it's, if you imagine a little wavelength, what are those called? Wave, like sound waves. Just little, if you just imagine little energy waves, the energy waves, they were not big ups and downs. It was not this peak mountain, this deep valley. It was this very, very minimal movement, because I covered up the soil of those whack-a-moles. So there was nothing popping up for me to whack. It was just all very minimal and depressed. So we were down here, and that, it's kind of even that image of a wave or a heartbeat that is barely beating. There's a keeping it together. There's a keeping it all together, holding it together, gotta be perfect, gotta be right, gotta be this, gotta be that, gotta be within these lines, just like the lines that we draw around time. And in that keeping it together, there's a holding on to what is known, what seems to be within my locus of control, my internal locus of control. I remember that in AP psychology. There's an internal locus of control and external locus of control. And that's in the paradigm of believing that internal and external are two separate things, which within the remembrance of unity consciousness, that which is external is actually just a mirror and a reflection for that which is internal, and both are one. And so that holding on of the womb space, dreading the period, dreading shedding, was also, of course, echoed in my digestion and excretory systems. Like literally not pooping and just being chronically constipated and not knowing that I was constipated. And I say not knowing because that was my baseline. Like I came out of the womb constipated. There was the flow was not a flowing, because I was choosing to experience a non-flowing experience of earthly human life. And I'm so grateful. I'm truly so grateful that I got to experience 2 decades of chronic constipation so that I can now just have that integrated, embodied experience. It's like I've gotten to live it, and so now I'm complete and I'm finished and I'm done with that, and I can just allow that embodied wisdom to inform, inspire, and do all those things. Yeah. And also, what's cool about the connection between the womb space and the rectum, just the whole pooping system, is that they're connected within the pelvic floor. The pelvic floor, and I guess now I'm specifically now speaking to human biology. And both, beings of all range of human beings experience a pelvic floor. And this perpetual contraction of my pelvic floor muscles, this bowl that was just holding. Like, if you imagine that the pelvic floor is this bowl, which I don't, yeah. And then it's like, oh no, there's water in this bowl, whether that water is blood, or maybe it's the nutrients from food. Maybe it's food going through my intestines. And this bowl is just like holding the food and the blood and all of the things, all of the energy of lineage, of land, of ancestors, just all of the things. Maybe it's memories. Maybe this bowl of the pelvic floor is holding that jacket in your closet that you've never worn. And yet this tag is still on, and yet you're holding on to it for the one day that you might wear it. Maybe that's what this bowl is holding. And then it's like, yeah, wow, I'm holding my hands up right now if you're just listening to the audio of this. And I essentially have my inner wrist creases pressed together, and then my hands are open like a little lotus flower. But it has this very pelvic bowl-like, yeah. Or even, what is it like? The fallopian tubes and the ovaries at the end. Many possibilities. It's like the birthing canal, and yeah, my forearms are the birthing canal. I'm just looking at my reflection in the, what is it called? The camera thing, and I just really enjoy this image. Okay, so the pelvic bowl is holding the waters, the blood, maybe there's a baby in there. Maybe that baby is human. Maybe that baby is energetic. Maybe that baby is a project that is gestating. And maybe that baby is a business. Whatever maybe it's a homework assignment. And in the paradigm that I was living through at the time, lack, scarcity, not enoughness, limited time, limited resources, survival. Yeah, essentially just survival, separation, consciousness. Believing that there was a finite amount of resources I remember this is like one of the first things they teach you in econ. When I was in macro, I think it was one of the, either macro or micro econ whenever I was taking econ in college, one of the first things is there are scarce resources. That's the entire model of modern economics is based around the scarcity of resources, which fundamentally is not true. Resources are abundant, overflowing, infinite. You can choose to believe what resonates with you. And what I've discovered in my experience of all that is this is that resources are not scarce, they are not limited, they are abundant, overflowing, and infinite. And not just for some, but for all. And yet, with my chronic constipation and like the chronic constipation, it's not even with the chronic constipation and all of the physical experiences of that were just manifestations of believing scarce resources. Like believing that fundamental scarcity, separation, lack programming. Living from that being the active programs in the back end of the programming that is a computer of me. And so living from that place of believing that there's a finite amount of time to get something done, there's a finite amount of resources, there's a finite amount of food and nutrients. Like how much intergenerational trauma is carried down from just, current, recent generations of experiences of war and poverty and like physical, literal experiences of lack and scarcity. And so with that, it's like, that is also like the experiences of what seem to be external or physical. Those are, again, the ripple effects, the manifestations of the back-end programming. And my experience of that in this human incarnation was in the form of chronic constipation, dreading my period, feeling isolated and ashamed, not enough, potentially targeted, fear of being seen, all of these fun things. And I was just squeezing it all close, squeezing it all close to keep it all together. And it's interesting about food. I mentioned food and nutrients and food scarcity, or the belief in food scarcity, or the experience of food scarcity, that there was this holding on to the food that I was eating. It was like, I don't want to, now I'm going to speak from that back end programming, that subconscious belief stuff that was happening. It was this, I don't want to let go of the food that is within my belly. I don't want to release these nutrients, because what if I never eat again? What if there are no more nutrients? Even fat cells. Oh my gosh. This is a whole journey I've been on with just my physical body, and specifically with fat cells. Regardless of what shape or size you seem to be, fat cells store energy. Like they hold on to energy for the hibernation of winter. Whatever winter represents, which even the programming of winter has been in that paradigm of, or experience of scarcity. Like that, the literally north and south poles of the earth. The ice, the frozenness, the seeming stillness, that whole thing of, it's cold, gotta hibernate for winter, gotta store up my acorns, gotta survive. How do I survive winter? Oh my gosh, that is essentially it. It's how do I survive winter, and what precedes how do I survive winter? It's, winter is a potential threat to my existence, to my life. Winter could mean death, so how do I not die? And so fat cells are like me being a little squirrel, or just the body being a little squirrel, holding on to these little pockets of energy for the potentiality of the winter coming that I will starve to death. It's kind of like having a bunker, which some people, absolutely, with your sovereign free will and divine choice, interdimensional infinite choice, if a bunker resonates with you, absolutely. A bunker is an external, it's just like a fat cell. It's like this layer of storage and protection, of defense. And so what is it like though? Okay, well, we'll continue the journey before I get to that. Fat cells. Oh yeah, so holding on. And the squeezing, so we got the pelvic floor, which is this bowl that is holding on energetically, multidimensionally, physically as well. And so what would happen is when there would be sensation in the womb of this shedding of, the lining and the bleeding and all the things, and there would just be sensation, what my back end programming of threat, danger, it would take this bowl and be like, oh no, something is trying to escape. Something is escaping the bowl. I need to hold on. Squeeze or cramp. Oh no, there's an earthquake of sensation. Let me hold on and squeeze this pelvic floor. And that would be my physical response to sensation. It's like I would feel sensation and I would tense. There would be this tension, this gripping, this holding on. And I mentioned clothing in the closet and, food that is moving through the digestive system. But that gripping, that holding on, that storing, whether there are so many possible examples that I'm sure there are some popping up for you in your awareness too. Like even people, relationships, holding on to the number of friendships in that school time. Oh my gosh. Yeah, there were so many friendships that really weren't, I'm going to say that they weren't aligned with the essence of myself, but at the same time, they were aligned for me in that context, in that situation, in that space that I was in, because they were a perfect vibrational match for the tension that I was holding. So if I'm walking around holding this tension in my pelvic floor, because that's what I was choosing to experience, all of my experiences are reflecting that. Like the people that I encounter, the situation that I experience, the way that I experience people and situations, environments, and the entire world around me is coming from that place of this bowl that is gripping and trying to keep it all together. This resistance, which even, oh my gosh, yeah, so now what's coming up is like the idea of backflow. And so in Ayurveda, they talk about the different vayus. So vayu, if I'm translating my Sanskrit, vayus mean wind or currents, and there are different directions, essentially, that the wind or the currents of energy or life force move through the body. And so they're talking about like there's the one that's coming up is Upanavata or Upanavayu. One of those two, Upanavayu. Basically the upward current. And there can be a essentially with something like nausea. It's like when the energy might be, and I'm going to put air quotes around should, but let's say in a baseline state, the energy is flowing downwards. Nausea is energy or burping or belching. That's energy flowing upwards. And so with the digestion of food, for example, it's like you eat food, and then if the food is now coming up, there's that upana vayu, or whichever vayu it is, that upward current that it's bringing the food back up. And with the pelvic bowl, it's like I was resisting the downward flow of life. I was, oh my gosh, wow. Yeah, this is super, all these, there's so many exciting connections. Okay, so I was resisting with the pelvic floor, squeezing, tensing, holding in my period, dreading my period, holding in my poop, holding in my food, holding in these friends that weren't aligned, these things in my closet that were outdated, holding on to what was known and familiar and that which seemed safe. It was all this resistance of the flow of gravity, because that is even tampons. Okay, yes, tampons plug us up. I mean, I used tampons for many years, and that absolutely is a valid and wonderful choice if that resonates with you. But even with cups, for example, it's kind of plugging up the womb to not let it flow down. There's a temporary suspension of gravity. That's what I'll call it. There's a temporary suspension of gravity. And yeah, ultimately, where is gravity inviting us to go? At least in what I've experienced so far of gravity on this Earth star as it is currently, gravity is inviting us to go to the Earth. It is inviting us to ground and anchor and be grounded, be on the ground. And that is what pooping is. This process of composting that which we are complete with, that which is no longer for us, these, quote unquote waste products, but they're not actually wasted, they're gifted. Like our poop is a gift to the earth. And yes, there are all these sewage systems and stuff like that, but the wonderful thing is that the earth is this magnificent composter. Like earth is masterful at composting, at transmuting, at alchemizing and transforming energies from one state to another. And that's what gravity allows us to do. It's like I was always, funnily enough, so I talked about how when one thing comes up, there's oftentimes this polar opposite that we also identify with. And so just as much as I was resisting that flow, that downward flow of releasing, of connectedness with earth, which was also manifesting in my experience of the earth and ground being dirty, which that's like a whole very connected layer of programming, with bleeding being dirty, with the period and the shame and the menstruation, all of that being a woman being dirty, being the earth, like the receptivity of the earth, dirt, soil, literally being dirty, and that it's bad to be dirty, it's bad to bleed, it's bad to be a woman, it's dangerous to feel sensation, And just to kind of zoom out for a moment, the beauty in surfacing all of these and voicing these, what will I call them? Yeah, programs, these bloop, 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 bloop. These neutral energies that are associated with certain programmed sequences of energy and behavior and ways of experiencing what is. Bringing these all and voicing them, expressing them in the light. And by the light, I literally mean like the light of awareness. Awareness and consciousness is literally this light. Is it, they all just get to be included. It's like we are that which gets to include even, for me, chronic constipation and that which seemed to be shame, like all of that is just wrapped up. Oh, hi, little friend. I just knocked my big fiddle leaf, ficus fig friend over here. Actually, we did a little high five. That's what we did. High five. Ding. All of it gets to be included. All of it is included within love, within the divinity of what is, within the remembrance that everything is multidimensionally whole and here for and from me, from us, for us. Yes, gravity. Okay. Oh yeah, I was talking about how if one thing arises and there's in the separation duality paradigm, that whole equal and opposite thing. And so just as much as I was resisting the downward flow, I was also pushing the downward flow. And that was, in the experience of actually pooping. Because my stool was dry and hard and scratchy, it was an uncomfortable, I dreaded pooping just as much as I dreaded having my period because it was just an unpleasant experience. And, it's funny because it was the only way that I knew to poop. Like, I didn't experience an instruction manual for how to poop. Like, I didn't at least read a guidebook when I was an infant that said, oh yeah, gravity actually is supporting you and you actually don't need to strain or push at all. It just like comes out on its own and your body does all of it for you. Like, I don't need to add extra force or pushing. But I did at the time, or I did believe that I did it at the time because that's what, it would just be sitting on the toilet and just sitting there like wishing that I would poop, desperately wanting to just poop and release, and yet feeling like I was in the grips of resistance. Yeah. And yeah, so gravity is here supporting us in all the ways. Supporting us in that flow, because that flow ultimately, and I have my hand raised above my head, my crown right now, because this body is like this column of light, this column of energy, this channel, this bridge between the cosmos and the earth. And we don't even actually have to build this bridge. We don't have to create this bridge. This bridge already is. We've already just being in physical form, that bridge already is. Whether we recognize or realize or remember that we are bridging things, we are doing that. And in those years of avoiding sensation because of the fear of being overwhelmed by that sensation. Oh yeah, so I was talking about the upward nausea, and that's... Oh yes, okay. So I briefly mentioned that in middle school, the sensation would sometimes arise in nausea during my period. And that's this, I'm holding on, I'm gripping, I feel a cramp, oh no, squeeze, I don't want this to be happening, let me just squeeze tighter, squeeze, tension, without realizing that's what I was doing. It's almost like strangulation. It's like, can I just strangle this cramp to have it end? But that's not really, it's in the word. And then when I had this realization a couple years ago about the word cramp, like a cramp literally it describes tension. And so if I'm adding tension to tension, that is just tension. And so really it's the invitation of a cramp is just to experience it. Really, I think that's That's kind of the most simple invitation of anything. It's just to experience it. And the energy just flows through, like that sensation of a cramp. The game changer for me was when it was many things, but on the pelvic floor front was when I went to a holistic pelvic care therapist. Dr. Danielle Cornelius, who I'm pretty sure her podcast is still called The Vital Vagina. And at the time, this was 2020, she was based in Oakland, so I was able to go and have a series of sessions with her that summer. And it literally, it was profound to actually experience, because it was a combination of intravaginal massage as well as like a very energetic ancestral approach of working with like the energy of the ovaries and also the energy of the womb space, and feeling. And her work also is based off of the book and her teacher Tammy Kent, who wrote the wonderful book Wild Feminine. And so that book also offers a lot of wisdom and guidance and sparks of remembrance about connecting with the womb space. And what that allowed me to remember is what it feels like to relax that entire pelvic floor. That was a profound gift, and that was a profound shift of that experience. And what activated for me was this awareness, this realization that I was holding this chronic pattern of holding, which is so common, so common. Again, whether we're holding our muscles, holding in our bellies, like walking around with our bellies held, holding our breath, holding stuff, holding people, holding on to memories, oh my gosh, holding on to the past, all the holding. And then being like, oh wow, this is what it physically feels like to release, to allow breath to go all the way down through the root, through the pelvic floor, and like a wave, just release and soften. Yeah, just soften and embrace the remembrance that I am already safe. And that was a profound, game changing. To feel my capacity for welcoming sensation. And so we've kind of been spiraling around all those years and what I was experiencing of holding and gripping. So then how did I go from holding and gripping to now, which I guess I'll speak to now, where I feel sensation, like a warmth, something that I might have called pain at a different time, that I was mid-dream space this morning and then noticing, becoming aware of sensation, and then being like, checking in with my womb space, checking in with my intuition, and be like, oh, let me get up, let me just get my wonderful, I have my absorbent underwear, which I love. Love absorbent underwear. And let me just kind of put this on and, who knows. And then I go to the toilet and I'm bleeding and I laugh. I literally chuckle. Pretty much all of my periods, as they've started over the past year or so, I just feel so overwhelmingly, not even overwhelmingly, I just feel so amazed by and grateful for the profound magic. Like, it is magical, this womb space, and I feel so grateful to get to experience this magic viscerally within my body. The timing, the divine timing. And so this timing was absolutely divine, because a few weeks ago, I communed with my body and the womb space, and I was like, okay, I have my photo shoot because I just did yesterday and the day before a 2-day brand and web magical. It was just a glorious photo shoot that I've kind of been visioning and building up to for the past few years and evolving into for the past, not years. Oh, maybe it's years. I was going to say past few months. And so I was like, okay, just let me do the photo shoot, and then we can do the period after the photo shoot is complete. Butterfly. And so I'm so grateful that I got to complete the experience of this wondrous filming and video photo shoot on the beach and in the woods. And then after that was complete, which really felt like this transition point of stepping into and fully embodying the radiance that is me. Just like shining with absolutely no holding. No holding in, no holding back, no keeping it together, no fear of gravity bringing me into death, into the dirty earth, but just fully barefoot, being the glowing goddess that I am. And I got to experience this initiation. That's really what it was. It was like this ritual of initiation. And then, now, I get to just welcome my period again. And in the past, 4 weeks, just honor the completion of this chapter, close it, because in this chapter, a lot has unfolded. There's been an eclipse portal. I turned 25. Lots in this past chunk. And it's not necessarily that the womb is a marker of time, but it is. It's kind of this, I guess, I was reflecting on the word period, because I did have associations with period as being this, when we're writing, the period is a full stop. And that absolutely was something that I was believing in, of just a lot of what various sources say about what you should or shouldn't do on your period, what is right and what is wrong, da 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 da. And ultimately what I've discovered is that, each individual's womb space is the guide. If the womb space is saying, maybe take a rest, maybe have that rest be in the form of a nap, or maybe the rest is in the form of a walk in nature. Like maybe that rest is more active or, creative. Ultimately, all that we need to know, all that is guiding us is already within. And that gets to be part of what we shed. We get to shed each gift of this shedding cycle, whether it comes in the season of fall and autumn and winter. Yeah, because I remember one of my teachers talking about winter being, or the period being like the winter of the cycle. And then ovulation being the summer, and then you kind of have the other seasons. And because of my associations with winter being this time of pause and rest and stillness, that's how I was that's how I was believing my period, quote unquote, should unfold. Like that, I believed that I should stop during my period and turn inwards and hermit. And at least what is true for me now is you can say, I'm talking to you. We're just here. We're hanging out. I feel magical. I feel splendid. I have sparkles on my face. This is pure wonder and delight. and creative energy just flowing. And at least that's my connection with my womb space currently, is I've discovered that my period is actually a really potent, magical time for creation. Just like all times, I've actually found that all points of my cycle are magical, potent times for creation. And it's actually, as I've been observing my cycle these past couple months, during ovulation, where I experience more of a deep dive of things coming to the surface, things arising, things shifting and changing. And then my period is just like a celebration. It's like, wow, look at all that has unfolded over the past few weeks. And that I am literally not who I was last time this divinely timed, rhythmic bodily experience occurred and flowed through me. And so now that I'm connected with gravity, life force energy, not life force, because it's also a death force, force energy, source energy flowing through. I welcome that downward flow as much as I welcome the upward flow and all of the multidimensional directions that energy flows in. And it is so enjoyable to just surrender and let go, to be like, I don't have to hold this up. I don't actually have to hold my hands up like this. I can just let my hands go and shake it out. I can just shake it out, let my arms relax downward. I can let gravity just gently sink my shoulders. I can let my shoulders fall away from my ears. I can let my belly release. Oh, I can even let my shirt tilt off to the side like this. Or I can center it right up. Or my bra strap. Let's get that one too. There we go. So I can collaborate with gravity too. We got to do all the things. And in embracing the downward flow, the inevitability of a transition coming for this physical body. At some point, this physical body gets to, how exciting! Wow! I'm honestly, it's, what pure magic. Oh my gosh. What a gift that this physical body gets to decompose into the earth and physically, literally become the earth once more. Like this is this wonderful spaceship vessel, this personal spaceship that I get to inhabit and be with and be within during this now moment. And then I just get to, like releasing the pelvic floor, like releasing blood down, sacred shedding into the earth, just like releasing my bowels to allow that which I'm complete with to be gifted and composted back to the earth. Just like clearing out my closet of Marie Kondo, that which doesn't spark inspiration or joy with me anymore, that which is dormant. Just like releasing connections, relationships, friendships that are simply complete for the time being. Just like releasing thought, releasing the back end programming that was once active and being like, okay, all that can be dormant now. Releasing it all with gravity, in flow, in divine downward flow into the earth. And that is sacred work. Like if somebody is like, oh, what do you do? Oh yeah, even just being human, just being in a physical body, however that is expressed, that is immense divine service. That is an immense divine contribution. Because that is taking the divine light that we are, and then we're packaging it up in this package that actually is not a package. Like, yes, I'm a package and I have skin. And if you zoom in close enough, the skin is just space and energy and vibration. And I am just one with the air around me, just as there actually is no space that separates you and me in this moment. I just noticed the little unicorn friend. Like, the unicorn friend is right here in this one moment. And so the cool thing about releasing from the remembrance of unity, consciousness, and oneness is that releasing is not the same as, or how I now experience releasing is not the same as how I once pooped. When I was pushing, I was like, I just need to get this out of me. That feeling of this is stuck. Like, this is literally a stuck stool. This is stuck energy. This is a stuck program. This is a stuck addictive behavior. And I just need to get a surgical knife and do an incision, excise. That's cutting something out, right? EXCISE. I just need to cut this growth out. And, that's, if you look at Western medicine, that is often an approach. Let me cut this thing out. Let me look at it, see it, and just let me cut it out. And that can absolutely, if that is what unfolds, that is absolutely what is divinely aligned. And even when you cut something out, you might not be removing it from you. So for example, cancer, it's like you can cut out a growth in a tumor and it can still grow back again. And so what's going on with that, right? Well, when we zoom out and we remember that the physical thing is only what is it like? It's like mycelium, mushrooms. You see the mushroom growing above the soil. If you chop off the mushroom's not gone. There's this entire network, all of this back-end programming that's still there. Web browsers. Say you open another tab on your device. Just because you close the tab doesn't mean that website doesn't exist anymore. That website is still live and active even if you close the tab. Even if you're not choosing to see it, it's still there. Unless you go into the programming and you deactivate the programming and you have the website go dormant. Then when you open the tab, it'll be like, oh, this website, well, I think the language currently uses this website can't be reached. I would say that the website can be reached if you choose to reach it. If you genuinely chose to be like, if you wanted to experience that dormant programming, you could. Oh, or maybe you have screenshots of when you were once visited that website and how that is even different. Like having a screenshot is kind of like an x-ray of a tumor that once was but is no longer there. It's like a snapshot of a moment, but the actual thing itself is still dormant. Wow, what a spiral we're going in. Okay, cancer. Oh, okay, so I just felt sensation. I essentially felt blood releasing from me into my underwear. Okay, so that is bringing me back to the womb and that releasing, because I was talking about period cups and period, what are they called? Oh, tampons. And I was talking about the word period and how I was reprogramming the word period because I've discovered for me it's not actually a stop. Sensation, feeling sensation, at least in my experience with my unique system and body, feeling sensation isn't actually inviting me to stop. Like, I can feel sensation, I can be aware of sensation happening, and I can still choose to create and play and enjoy life and be expressive. I can choose to do whatever I feel inspired to do in the moment. And so as it was at the end of 2019, okay, well, let me just go from high school, numbing, Advil, period, and then I was about to go off to college. So I'm 18 at this point, and my mom, as the midwife that she is, and the care provider she is for women, together we essentially decided of me going on a low dose hormone. I don't remember which hormone it is. Progesterone? Progesterone? Anyway, a low dose birth control pill. And so I was on that for 5 years, even though at that time I wasn't sexually active. And during that entire 5-year, was that true? Oh no, that wasn't entirely true. For the vast majority, like through college, I also was not sexually active at all. So I wasn't taking birth control to prevent possible pregnancy. I was purely on birth control for what I experienced as a gift at the time, the absence of my period. So the way that the birth control pill interacted with my body was it completely removed my period from the equation. I just didn't get my period. And so for 5 years, I didn't get my period. Yeah, and it was 5 years because it was for one more year after I graduated college. So it was in the spring of 2020, April 2020, that I stopped birth control. And yeah, because it was at the end of 2019 when I was I just catapulted on my journey of spiritual remembrance. But honestly, even in that last year of college, I was getting really excited seeing all these sustainable period products like cups, and I was really excited actually to get my period once more so that I could experience and dive into the realm of, sustainable period products. I was so excited about period underwear and not having to go through pads and tampons and just like all of that accumulated stuff. And yeah, like I said, at that time, it was truly a gift for me to not get my period. And during that time of college, it really was the beginning of me embracing this, rather than, yes, I did have some classes, but I had so much more free time and space, or I believed I had so much more free time and space. And so it was the beginning of me discovering what my personal rhythm and how I enjoyed flowing through life was. And in that time, and without my period, I didn't have to dread getting my period. And it was so enjoyable. And it allowed me to be in this continuous, interesting. Like what's coming up is masculine in the sense of divine masculine and divine feminine. Of divine masculine being more action, giving, and feminine being receptive and passive. And passive in the sense of, receiving. Even though they're actually, that which seems to be opposite are both. Because feminine is also active and giving, and masculine is also receptive and passive. And the yin yang symbol is a beautiful thing because, I'll say it in Chinese, yin yang is, within the yin is yang, and then within the yang there's yin. And just orienting myself in this moment, seeing what's alive and present, seeing what's dormant. Okay, yes. I chose to, also with the guidance of a Vedic astrologer at the time and the guidance of an Ayurvedic doctor, I chose to stop my birth control and just welcome my period and be on that flow of rediscovering, reconnecting with my period. And I am so grateful. I am so grateful that I made that choice and continue to make that choice. It was also part of I just didn't really feel aligned or resonant with continuing to take birth control or ibuprofen. In the past 2 years, since the end of 2019, I don't know if I can't recall a time that I've actually taken ibuprofen, because I enjoy experiencing sensations, and sensations to me are no longer associated with pain and no longer associated with something to avoid, because I remember that I include all the things and I can always zoom out my perspective, and I remember that I'm not just this physical body, I'm not just this transitory form, and that I do have the capacity, rather than that thin sliver, that tiny little wavelength that was barely beating, my window of tolerance for experiencing sensation in physical human form, it's literally not even a window. It's the window has entirely been shattered as a concept, and it's just infinite space. So we can go all the places, freely swirling around. It's definitely not a line. We're just all over the place. And all over the place is just in this one now moment. So we're in one place and we're all over the place, both at once. Yay! And so now what resonates with me is there was a point last year where my cycle was aligned with the moon. I would get my period on the new moon, and I enjoyed that at the time. I enjoyed synchronizing with the moon and playing with the lunar energies. But really, now I'm not even synchronized with the moon, because I don't have to be. And I get to just be synchronized with my unique rhythm, my unique experience of my womb space and womb time. And like I mentioned about the beautiful divine timing of this period starting after my photo shoot, it's just I'm brought back to August of last year, August 2021, when I chose to leave my job and I was moving out of my apartment in San Francisco. And it was literally, I finished packing up my final boxes. This was a place that I'd been living for 2 years. Finished packing up my final boxes, putting it all in the car. After I'd put it all in the car, I did one bathroom break before we were about to drive. And I literally, in that moment, start bleeding. It was such a profoundly mind-blowing, extraordinary gift. The divine, the precision of that timing. It's my body was yep, we are complete, we are done, this chapter is closed. And we can fully let go of all that womb of that job and that experience in San Francisco got to be for me. That was all complete. And with this ceremony and ritual of sacred shedding, I got to, just fully release and integrate and digest. And it was I was so gleeful. I was blissful, gleeful. I was so joyful and delighted to, it was incredible. And it still is. Each time I get my period, it's wow, how amazing. And the timing is just perfect. And so what is my experience of my period now? It's essentially, like I described, it's I'm joyful. And then I ended up I didn't end up using cups at all, because this was a recommendation of my Ayurvedic doctor. She was just talking about how in the Ayurvedic tradition, the understanding of, just those values, those currents of energy. And in that season of downward flow, it's like, do I align with just choosing to allow the downward flow that's happening to just downwardly flow? And what do they call? I think that there's a movement around this. Free bleeding. Maybe that's what it is. I like free bleed. I am free. You are free too. And so we're all free. We can freely bleed into whatever we want to freely bleed into. I've actually had some really special moments of being bleeding and then being in the forest and, peeing in the forest and gifting the sacred blood back to the earth. There's something very special about that. It's like this remembrance of the connectedness. Oh, and this is something that is coming full circle as well, of, as I was talking about releasing and what it means to release. Oh, and then that's when I went on that. Oh, that's when I started talking about cancer and the tumors. So that is cutting and removing something. Yeah. Cutting and removing or fixing or changing or just being like, let me get rid of this from myself. But then the thing is, when we remember that ourselves are actually everything, when I remember that I am actually everything, that I am also the earth that I am releasing to, then there is no exclusion. There's no separating. There's no getting rid of the thing. And so then what? It's kind of like looking at the earth as it is, and what does it mean to accept the wholeness of what is and embrace and include everything that is part of the experience, even the things that there may be back-end programming, subconscious programming, separation conscious programming, that this thing shouldn't be here. Whether it's the word or the association of something that is evil or bad, wrong. Yeah, just all of those energies. Shameful. I wish this wouldn't be here. I wish this wouldn't be this way. Anything like that. Even, so there's a thing, let's call it a tumor, that is like, I wish I could just cut this tumor out and have it be rid of. Then there's the energy of that wants to get rid of. So there's the one that wants to cut the thing out, which is a program in and of itself. There's the thing itself, which is also a manifestation of another program or the same program. And then there's the awareness of both of those things. There's the thing that includes both the tumor and the one that wants to cut out the tumor. And so what is that? What includes all of the tumors of this experience? What includes all of the things that seem bad and evil? What includes that which seems inconvenient, too early, too late, not enough, too much? What includes all of that? And I'm curious, ask yourself, because your answer is within you. And what comes through me, what's true for me, is I include all of it. That which I am. I, in the sense of the one that we are. Oneness, just isness. What is includes all of it. Divinity. Energy. It's all just fundamentally energy swirling around. Energy and that which seems to be space within energy and energy within space. And so from that, heart center. From that heart-centered remembrance of my heart space is infinite. There are no walls. There are no boundaries. There are no borders. It is infinitely vast, and it includes and is interconnected with everything. from that place with love. It's just meeting and welcoming all aspects of what is. Because with divine sight, with remembrance of the essence and truth of what is, you can see through all of the layers of programming, because I remember I am the programmer. That we are each the programmers, and we are the programs. We each have this unique, individual, intimate, innate knowledge, wisdom, mastery with the essence of existence itself. And grounding that is what this is. Like this whole physical body thing, being human, when I spoke about being human as being a profound contribution, that is the grounding. Like it may seem like what I'm speaking about is abstract or lofty, but it's as equally etheric as it is physical, because they are both, just like all things, one. So fun. So fun. Yes. And so with all of this spiraling, I'll invite you once more to join me in closing the eyes. And you can always pause and return to this closing when it aligns and resonates for and with you. And I'll simply guide us in completing and honoring that which we are complete with. And so arriving in the posture that feels comfortable for you now. Maybe that's sitting, lying down, and connecting with a sense of your roots. And we'll begin down the roots and feel the roots connecting with the earth. Maybe your roots are traveling down through your legs and your feet, down through each toe, or your roots also through the base of your spine and your tailbone, rooting the entire spinal column of light that you are. And you can be playful with how your roots express themselves. They might be like tree roots, but they might also be ribbons or streams of light, allowing the imagination to be divinely, freely, creatively expressed. And sensing how Gaia, the Earth Star, from the center of the Earth Star, there are roots that meet yours, like a hand holding out, inviting you to connect. That there's a relaxation in these roots, that they're easily gliding through layers and dimensions and intertwining in reunion and remembrance that they were never separate to begin with. There's no tugging or tension, only balance, harmony, and equanimity in your connection with this earth. And through these roots, gifting, releasing, composting anything that you're complete with, anything that is dormant within you, down to the earth. And with open arms and receptivity, the earth receives your gifts with gratitude. As the earth is a magnificent master of including all that is into the essence of source energy, the essence of light and love. Everything is welcome. And you don't need to know how to release. You don't need to know what is complete. You can simply choose to deactivate, to release, to compost, whatever language resonates with you. And as you choose it within, it is. I choose to release all that is complete with ease, with love, with gratitude. Gifting these dormant, inactive energies into the earth, including all back into the oneness and wholeness of Source. And scanning the entire body, releasing from the root, releasing from the sacral chakra, the womb space, releasing from the solar plexus and the belly, releasing down through the roots from the heart space and the chest, releasing from the throat chakra, and the neck, releasing from the third eye, and the head, the face, the eyes, the mouth, the jaw, the tongue, the mind, releasing from the crown, from the brain, and releasing from the soul star and the stellar gateway. And inviting gravity to support this grounding, composting, gifting flow. And simultaneously experiencing all that which you are receiving from the earth up through your roots, up through the entire light body that is you and that you include, and all that you're receiving through the crown of the sovereign creator you are, the sovereign creator I am. That this flow easily glides up and down, multidimensionally, throughout the expansiveness of you. Sealing out that which is complete and sealing in the vibrancy of the pure energy, pure light, pure source that is overflowing your cells, your essence with illumination. That you are receiving from both the earth and the stars, as well as 360 degrees. You're receiving from every dimension, every side, every angle, every curve. You're receiving globally. And all there is to be and do is receive, if that is what you choose. Trusting that what you choose to receive, what you do receive, what you receive is only that which is divinely resonant, aligned with, supportive of, and beneficial to you and to the full whole you-ness that is, the oneness that is. Everything you experience, everything we experience, everything that unfolds through us is a contribution to existence. A contribution to collective harmony, peace, abundance, freedom, and oneness. That your receptivity is a service. That you're releasing what you are complete with is a gift. As it allows that energy to freely transform back into source and into whatever magical expression it gets to take. That you can choose to be part of the easeful flow and current of what is within you, within the womb, within the galactic cosmos, within the earth. And you can choose to remain here for as long as you're inspired to. And now, once more, grounding and connecting with the roots in awareness. And you can choose to keep your roots intertwined with the earth, even as you continue with your day or night. And trust that that process of releasing and receiving vibrancy and nourishment will continue. And divine guidance of your light being self. Or if you feel complete now, you can choose to unwind, and collect your awareness into the physical body, like the physical body is this potent, concentrated vessel of your infinite, expansive light. Thanking the earth, thanking Gaia, thanking the roots and the stars, maybe placing the hands upon the womb space, thanking the womb, placing the hands upon the heart once more, thanking the heart for all the love given and received. And finally, placing the hands, covering the eyes, thanking the mind, thanking connections with the cosmos, and thanking consciousness itself. when you're ready, blinking the eyes open gently with the hand still covering. Allowing the eyes to meet the light and removing the hands. And we'll close with one shared breath together, reaching the arms up, inhaling and exhaling, palms together at heart center. Thank you, thank you, thank you. What a blessing. How fun it has been. And how fun it is. You are such a gift, and your presence sparkles and radiates and inspires me. And inspires all that is. Much love.